Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Limited Time Only. This is episode 82, and I am your host, Spencer. And I am joined by my co-host, my favorite GP Top 8 competitor, Danny Cathro.
I'm trying to think am I though? There's a lot of GP Top 8 competitors.
So, don't get me wrong, I love Alex Sittner. He's one of my best friends. I love Shadi Badran. He's one of my best friends. I love Paulo Vitor Damarosa. He is a good friend of mine. I wouldn't say he's one of my best friends. And then I just don't know if I have any other... Yeah, I don't know if I have any other friends that are GP Top 8 competitors that are, close to me, right? Those are the ones that are, I could probably ask Paulo any question I want. Shadi and Alex are, good friends of mine. But, they're not my podcast co-hosts. And, I love you, man. And the amount of crap that I've gotten for you not being my favorite Utah Silver Pro is inappropriate.
So funny.
But
Michael's the correct answer to that question.
Hold on. I've also never said who my favorite Silver Pro is. I've never said it's not you. But I did say you were my favorite GP Top 8 competitor. So that eliminates Alex from the competition. But you know what?
Sounds like an LSAT question. It's if I'm this and then you're that. All right, we got there.
But you know who we would never eliminate from our competition is our sponsors. You can check out the Mana Base at their website. I think it's the manabase.wp.engine.com. They are changing that, so don't forget to just Google the Mana Base. If you just look at Fusion Gaming MTG, you can find all of the Mana Base articles from there. You can check out Nikachu, the Mason Slayer, as well as other awesome content from the Mana Base, as well as their sponsor at Fusion Gaming, where you can get your Seal product to, go out and get your awesome drafts. And this is one of the best draft formats and sealed formats we've had in a long time, and you should definitely check it out. You can also check out our other sponsor at playatgamegrid.com to check out GameGrid. GameGrid is an amazing sponsor that we really appreciate. And, the GameGrid Invitational qualifiers are happening right now. So if you are local to Utah, there's probably a GameGrid Invitational near you. Check it out at playatgamegrid.com. And, go qualify for that awesome free $3,000 tournament plus other prizes. So thank you so much to our sponsors. We appreciate them. You can support the podcast directly by going to patreon.com/LTOMTG. Despite the fact that both of my constructive criticism co-hosts didn't know the answer to what our patron is on patreon.com, it is LTOMTG. And they gave us a nice little shout out on the last podcast, which we really appreciate. But yeah, if you want to support this directly, starting at any amount that you see fit, $1 per episode, $1 per month, you can set however you want it to be done. We appreciate our current patrons. It means the world to us. But that is how you can support this podcast directly. Let's go right into the first segment of our show, which is Biggest Movers. So every week on the show, we like to talk about things that moved up or moved down for us the most. We're going to do our ups first. I'm a little surprised by Danny's up because I feel like he's late to it. So we're going to start with Danny, and then we'll go to my up because I'm also a little bit late to mine. Danny, what is your biggest mover up?
So my biggest mover up is Dusk Charger. So it's the 3 and a black for the 3/3, has Ascend. As long as you have the City's Blessing, it's a 5/5. So
I have a question. You and I actually talked about this card, I think, 2 weeks ago. And we both said that it had moved up for us. Has it moved up even more since then for you?
Yes. So the reason why, so mostly it's I haven't found a lot of good 4-drops. I just think there's a lot of decks where you're just you really are happy to have a Dust Charger, and a lot of
all of them, everybody.
Yeah, everyone. It's just really good. A 5/5 is gigantic, and it only costs 4 mana, so you can get it down for 4, and then you can try to trigger Ascend the next turn, or maybe a couple turns after. But it's just really, really good. It's one of the better 4-drops that you can have.
One of the things that you and I have talked about is the size of creatures in this format. I feel like it's been an undertone on the podcast for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And they're 3/3s. Big creatures in this are 3/3s. And then there's 2 5s in the form of the chicken flyer. Yep. But other than that, it's a format of 2 2s and 3 3s. Which is really weird for a slow format, right? You'd think that something like the 6/6 dinosaur would rule the day, but that's just not how it's ended up. Removal's really good. So what happens is like your big creatures all get killed, and then you're just battling with a bunch of 2/2s and 3/3s.
Mm-hmm.
And in that world, your cheap 5/5, right? Your 4-mana 5/5 is really good because you don't get crushed on that mana exchange that we talked about with things like Colossal Dreadmaw, right? That 6-mana 6/6, while if you curve out and they've had to already use their removal spells, is really good. If they haven't had to use their removal spells, that 6 is just going to get tackled by a 3 or 4 mana removal spell, and then you're in trouble. Whereas that 4-mana 5/5 in the form of Dust Charger is going to be really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just overperformed. So I just it's the card that has impressed me the most this week by quite a bit. Very, very good.
Yeah, I like that as your biggest mover up. It was pretty quick for me that it moved up, and maybe you're actually higher on it than I am. Like, it's hard to know, like, when you're talking face to face with somebody, exactly, like where it's at. But I think that we're both on all of our black decks want this card. I don't care if I'm vampires. I don't care if I'm blue-black. I don't care if I'm red-black. Like, there's a good chance that, like, I'm happy with Dust Charger in my deck.
Yeah. Even in red-black, there's, like, at the 4-drop slot, there's not very much that is better. Like, it's just the best thing that you can be doing, yeah. I
mean, like, if you even think about the commons in this set, like, we talked about red last week as our color of the week, and we were talking about that 4-mana 3/4 dinosaur that, like, we're not happy with. So it just doesn't compete with a lot. And then the fact that it's only 1 black just makes it just a little bit better. So it's not often that our biggest mover-ups are rares, Danny.
It generally is when you get it, and then you get to play with it, and then you're like, I want to have, like, the sick brags that I got to play with this card, and it's amazing.
I've never played with this card.
Oh, really? Oh, you got beat by it.
Oh, I've been beaten by it, I think, 7 times now.
That's very good.
So, my biggest mover up is Profane Procession. And don't get me wrong, I was always high on this card. But the time that I lost to this card out of a non-white black deck, meaning that they were playing, like, blue X bullcrap, and I lost this card, I was like, okay, I don't know how this card is splashable, but the fact that I just lost to the splash of Profane Procession leads me to believe this card is really good. I don't think it's as good as Tetsamok, but, like,
I mean, it being, like, multiple colors is harder,
but worse. Like, but I did used to it out of a blue deck that was, like, it was blue-white, so it did have one of the colors, but they didn't actually have a white land in play while they were beating me.
Like, no, yeah, like, the card's completely absurd. Like, unbelievably.
Yeah. And my understanding is that somebody did a video, and I haven't watched this video, so I'm not sure who it was, but apparently somebody did a video where they had a 5-color deck with Profane Procession where they won the draft in their video with just Profane Procession activations off of treasures. And it's like...
And if you can do it, imagine if you're just in white-black.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've lost to the card so many times. I've lost to it out of white-blue. I've lost to it out of white-red, which was really annoying because, like, they were only playing red for removal. Maybe they weren't actually white-red. They were probably actually white-black, and I just didn't see any other black cards. But
no,
I lost the card.
Dumb.
Yeah. So I think that the card is so powerful, and it fits the format so well that I've been wrong about it. I've never opened this card, so I've never had to pick between this and, like, another card. But I think this card is quite good.
For
sure. When I saw it,
Uh-huh.
I did not realize it was. I didn't realize it was like slightly worse than Pack Rat, right? Like,
no, it's like a whole. There's certain cards in the set, like that card, Tetsamok, Hadana's Climb is actually close to them for me. Like that card's also ridiculous.
I think it's those two.
Yeah, those two are way better for sure. But
and here's the thing: is like, if we look at the best like cards, like the top cards all time, I don't know that it hits the top 10 for Profane Procession, but
probably not. It's like too slow. Like a lot of
it is too slow, and it's two colors, right?
Yeah.
So like Tetsamok, I think might hit the top 10, right? Like Umezawa's Jitte, Tetsamok, Pack Rat,
Citadel Siege.
I don't know that Citadel Siege is up there.
Citadel Siege was so yeah.
But there are, I mean, if you listen to very old episodes of Limited Time Only, we actually did a bracket, like a March Madness bracket of top limited
it's fun.
time.
Yeah.
And the rebel that grabs other rebels.
Let's see. I didn't play with it, but
that was up there. And this card's high. It would be in a bracket now, right? Like if there was there's a March Madness top 64 bracket, like this card would be on it, and I just didn't see that when I saw Previewing Procession. Let's talk about our biggest mover down, because I actually disagree with yours. I think that you are 700% wrong.
So mine is Stormfleet Swashbuckler. So it's 1 in a red for a 2/2 pirate, human pirate. Once you get a send, it has double strike. So this card is good, but
did you have it way too high?
No. Just like it's good, but you should draft it kind of like the 2-drop from Ixalan. What's the other one called? The one that has fire breathing.
Oh, this is way better than Direfleet Daredevil.
Not really. Like
hold on. Okay. Let's argue. Let's not argue, but let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So, you and I is your favorite deck? I mean, it's been a week, but is your favorite deck still blue-red?
Yeah, it's definitely the one that I enjoy the most, and I think it's very, very good.
Okay, so our favorite decks are both still blue-red.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that deck, would you rather have a Stormfleet or would you rather have a Direfleet Daredevil? Or it's not Daredevil. That's not the right card. It's Direfleet. It's Direfleet something.
Swashbuckler. No,
is it that?
I don't remember, but so this card's better, but like
Are you saying the cost because it's an uncommon is higher?
No, just like I think because it's an uncommon, you're trying to like take it higher, but I don't think it's significantly better than that card. Like
hold on. Okay, I understand what you're saying. I can understand. So it's Fathom Fleet Firebrand is the card we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that Stormfleet Swashbuckler is significantly better.
Okay. So
here's the reason.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
In blue-red specifically, you want pirates, right? They're both pirates, so they both check that box. You can easily get a send in blue-red.
Okay.
Quite easily, because your removal spells you have Water Knot as a removal spell. You also have enchantments that you really, really, really like.
Play.
Right?
Like C-Red, Curious Obsession.
C-Red, Curious Obsession, as well as you'll never get it, but one with the wind in.
Yes.
So it and because your opponent can't block, you don't lose creatures very easily. So you get to send a weird amount. So like red-black never gets a send, right? Because like your creatures trade and you try and still get under them. But blue-red, nobody blocks.
Yeah, you get around that deck. You get around them.
Yeah, and so both players get a send, which can be bad for blue-red. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I often find that this card actually is a 2/2 double strike.
Interesting. Like that definitely comes up, and I'm not saying the card's bad. I'm just saying that oftentimes it's not. It's like it's replacement level 2-drop. Like it acts like a 2-drop for a while. Like just a 2-mana 2/2.
But isn't it just fine as the 2-drop, right? Like this deck has to have as many 2-drops as it wants.
Yeah. But if you're taking it like a Dante's Vanguard or something, then it's like that's not where you need to take it like
okay.
Yeah.
I can see why it's your biggest mover down.
Yeah.
I have not had it this high. Like you clearly had it as like a premium 2-drop.
Uh-huh.
And I think that 2-drops in this deck are premium, and I think all of the blue 2-drops are better than this, and the red common
is better than this.
Is
like
better
the 2/1. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay, so if you had Stormfleet Swashbuckler above,
like the 2/1 menace.
Yeah. So if you had it above Goblin Trailblazer, like yes, I can see why it's your biggest mover down.
Yeah.
But the number of people that have played the Sun-Colored Raptor against me.
Oh yeah, no, that card's horrible.
Just makes me really believe in the power of Stormfleet Swashbuckler. And the other thing is, I've been playing a lot of Telenolly's Crowns in my blue-red decks.
And this does hold it way better. It's insane.
This is actually the best holder of that card.
Yeah.
In the deck, only because of how bad the blue cards hold it, right? So like now I have played a lot of Soul of Rapids in my blue-red decks. So like
Slippery Scoundrel them. That one's good.
What is that one?
The uncommon, the one that if you get Ascend, it's hexproof, unblockable. I actually 2 for 3.
What is this card?
So it's 2 and a blue, Ascend. So 2 and a blue, 2/2, Ascend, hexproof, unblockable.
I actually have not played this card.
Yep, Slippery Scoundrel.
I actually don't know that I've ever drafted. I have it in front of me now. I've never drafted this card.
Yeah, it's great with Tialanis.
It seems great in the deck that I love to draft. I've just never seen it.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. So for me, like when you see this card moving down, like the fact that Tilanali's Crown, who's moved up for me, has pushed this card with it.
Just because you need something.
Right, because Tilanali's Crown kills the things that are blocking the things that I care about getting in. But also, Stormfleet holds Tilanali's Crown and gives me Ascend faster. And Sea Red does the same thing, right? Like, those two cards in this deck are almost interchangeable for me at this point. One thing that I have a problem with is, like, the red-black deck also thinks it wants Stormfleet Swashbuckler, and I don't think that's true. I actually think that deck doesn't want it. Like, you would take your first Dinosaur Hunter every single time.
Yeah.
Over a Swashbuckler, so I can see why it would move down for you. I think it's only like great in blue-red. But like, I have not wanted to force a deck in draft in a long time, and I think you could convince me to force blue-red in this draft format.
It's just very different than the other decks and powerful.
Yeah. My biggest mover down is a card that I think might have been my biggest mover up week one. And that's Famished Paladin. So there's a lot of reasons that Famished Paladin has been my biggest mover down. So Famished Paladin is the 3/3 that whenever you gain life, you untap it. It doesn't untap during your untap step. So first of all, there are decks where this card is quite good.
One's with Fire Devotion.
Yeah. However, the amount that Legion Conquistador is better in this format makes this card worse. And that's a weird thing, right? It's a 3/3. Doesn't it block? Sure, but I don't need as many 2-drops, right? Like, and the fact that, like, Sun Sentinel, it like, replaces this card. Basically, this card's not better than any other 2-drop. Like, the fact that it's a 3/3 for 2 doesn't actually matter. It actually doesn't matter if I'm playing Martyr of Dusk. It doesn't matter if I'm playing a non-vampire. It actually doesn't matter what I'm playing. In a vampire deck, it is better than Raptor Companion. Congratulations.
Yeah. But, like, all of the other vampires are
even humans, right? Like, Sun Sentinel's not even a vampire, and I'd still, like, just as happily play that.
Yep. So its replacement level is pretty high. Like, you don't need to prioritize this, and you can prioritize, like, a removal spell or a Legion Conquistador or whatever else.
I have the biggest mover down for Sealed that I think that we should talk about because I think that it's important. I think that the biggest mover down for Sealed in this entire format, not just in its color, but like the overall biggest mover down for Sealed is Territorial Hammerskull.
That's not what this format's about.
Oh my goodness. This card went from, if I open 2 of these, this is a good Sealed deck, to if I open 2 of these, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep. I mean, I would still like to have them in case I need them, but
if you're in that deck.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
If you open 2 of them in Ixalan, it was like, okay, I'm building a deck around Territorial Hammerskull.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it's like, okay, I have 2 Territorial Hammerskull. Do I have a deck I can play?
Do they do anything?
Yeah, the other thing that kind of sucks with Territorial Hammerskull is the cards that go really well with it, you don't have enough of, right? So, like, Tilanali's Knight is one that you really, really want. So you have a lot of Raptor Companions, so that helps. But, like, and Squire Devotion certainly can help, but outside of those at common, I don't feel like there's a ton of stuff that helps at this slot.
Yeah, I mean, there's just, like, a density of 2-drops, so even if you have Hammerskull, your opponent isn't just going to not do anything. Like, there's so many options for them to like commit to the board, and like they have Squire's Devotion also, so they can
I mean, that just creates a really tough board state for you to get through.
Yeah.
And like the thing is that if you looked at Territorial Hammer Skull and Sealed, it was good in the Vampire deck, it was good in the Red-White deck, it was even good in like the BS Dinosaur decks that like were only good in Sealed but like weren't good in Draft. It was good in every White deck. And now it's like, okay, Vampire decks don't come together. And if they did, I would need a really, really good 2 Ixalan packs.
Yes.
Because, like, I want Mark of the Vampire. I want, just cards that don't happen in the sealed format. Not that they can't happen, right? It's that
the odds of them happening are very low.
That they don't happen
when you also have Hammer Skulls. Yeah.
And then, you look at green. Like, let's talk about green-white. So green-white's a good deck in Draft. That was not true last format. But like, it in sealed. Sure, if I have like a bunch of hardy veterans and is it Gilgrove Stalker? Sure, those are great with it. But the problem is that my opponents are going to have Stormsweep Swashbucklers. They're going to have just so many cards at the 2-drop slot that it doesn't fill the same role, right? You wanted 6, 7 2-drops in Ixalan, and because there's so many and they don't matter in Rivals, it just makes Territorial Hammer Skull so much worse.
Yep, the board states get clogged. Like, Ascend is a mechanic, right? So Ascend is about clogging the board, which is the opposite of what Territorial Hammer Skull wants to happen.
It's weird because, like, in my aggressive decks, I really want 1-drops, and I really want 1-drops with Ascend. In my aggressive decks.
Yeah.
Which tells you a lot about the format, right? Even my aggressive decks expect the format to be a little bit more aggressive. Or a little bit more slow, sorry.
Yeah.
Really quick, before we move on to our color of the week, Jackson Tucker in chat says, "Hey, Spencer, where's Ring-Red Dinosaur deck testing?" And I'm not sure if you mean standard or standard or limited, but let's talk about limited really quick. The Green-Red Dinosaur deck is significantly better in Draft in this format, and about the same place it is in Sealed.
No, in Draft, it actually got quite good, whereas in Ixalan, it was not good.
Forerunner of the Empire is a huge reason for this.
Yeah.
And then there are a few other things that we should talk about. Neater-Tooth Raptor is broken. That
if you get the Forerunner specifically,
I actually don't think it matters. I think that it's actually just a broken Magic card.
It's really good.
You actually can't attack with that in play because creatures are so small in this format.
Yeah.
And then Frilled Death Spitter is also surprisingly good.
That card's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
And then Red also got 2 1-mana removal spells. And while I know that people don't love Mutiny, when you are playing Dinosaurs and or Blue-Red, which are the 2 decks that I believe this fits in the best, which is funny because I think on LR this week they said Mutiny fit in Control the best. And I think that it actually fits in Dinosaur Control really well, but I think that it also fits in Blue-Red really well. Mutiny does this thing where it kills a small creature in play, which makes dinosaurs better because there's less things that can double block. And having that mana efficiency when you're playing large creatures is really good because it lets you double spell. Reckless Rage is obviously insane.
Yeah.
Completely insane in the dinosaur deck. If you had told me we got Shake the Foundations and Reckless Rage in the last set, I would have thought more about like enraged cards. And then the fact that we got really good enraged cards in the set, like Green-Red has gotten significantly better. In Sealed, I really liked being the Dino deck because it was really easy to get, as well as the blue decks. They were also really easy to get. I think that Dinos has gotten harder to get. And here's the reason it's gotten harder to get. Dinos don't have the same caliber of rares. So there are 2 rares in Dinos that are really good, right? Like if you open a Galta or you open a both sorry, what was yours?
The Tolly is the other Elder Dinosaur.
Those 2 are obviously insane. It doesn't matter. So first of all, it doesn't matter what red deck I'm playing a Tolly in it. And then That's probably true of Galta too. But outside of that, like Herd Collar is an uncommon. There's some kind of mediocre, like Overgrown Armasar is kind of mediocre. And the thing is like the best stuff is above common, right? Thrashing Brontodon above common.
Crested Herd Collar.
Yeah, Crested Herd Cherished Hatchling. Oh my goodness. Above common, right? So it's harder to get the very good green red dinos, but in draft the deck got better, and in sealed, because of the way that they moved up rarities a little bit, I think it stayed the same. So I hope that answered your question for draft. In constructed, I posted a list in our constructed criticism constructed critics group. So if you're a patron of $5 or more of constructed criticism, looking for a constructed device, I did post a list that I have some results on MTGO with green red dinos. Let's move on to our color of the week, which is green. So this kind of fits perfectly into it. Let's start with our notable commons. I think that for me, I want to talk about the cards that I started really hot and moved down on.
Okay.
Hardy Veteran and the Stalker.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I thought that this format was all about these two cards.
It's not at all about them.
It's not all about them. And then, well, I thought this card was terrible. Other people had this really high, and that's Jade Bearer. I think Jade Bearer is actually bad.
It's not, I mean, it's like a necessary evil sometimes, but it's definitely not a great card. But
I think that you would have to be very hard to convince me to play Merfolk in this format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you have to get hooked up like crazy.
No, you really do. Like, you have to be getting 7th pick good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just really hard. Because the thing is that to start this format, you were like, well, Jungle-Born Pioneer is really good.
Yeah.
And
it still is good.
It still is good. And Gilgrove Stalker is also really good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as these two really good commons, and then this horrible common that everybody loved in Jade Bearer.
Not very
And
good.
You thought, like, okay, well, green-blue Merfolk is still a thing. But what actually happens is none of these cards really are that good. Jungle-Born Pioneer is actually pretty good still.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that...
The other ones got much
Yeah,
worse.
they just got worse. But green is really good at rare and uncommon. Like...
It has just a lot of, like, power and toughness, just like what green generally does, right? It has a lot of power and toughness, and there's some utility, and it's a good, the uncommons are very strong.
Let's just go through the uncommons and rares really quick.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is is it Cacophedon? Whatever it's called.
Cacophedon. Mm-hmm.
Which is playable, not great. Playable, but not great.
Yeah, I sideboarded it in a lot.
Yeah, Cherished Hatchling, very good. Next one, Crested Herd Collar. Oh my gosh, very good.
Yeah,
Next one,
it's insane, actually. Yeah.
Deepwater Elite, very good as a rare. Enter the Unknown, yeah, I would never play that card.
That's very bad.
We got our first bad one. We have Forerunner of the Heralds. I actually have played this card in my Merfolk decks. It has made my Merfolk decks better. Mm-hmm. Very playable. Galta.
I got a deck, with like 3 Forerunners, and it was very, very fun.
Oh yeah. I think that Forerunner of the Heralds actually improves your Merfolk deck significantly.
Oh yeah.
Where it goes from like if you have 2 Forerunners and 1 Deep-Root Elite, right? Or 1 Merfolk Lord, right? Like, it just really dramatically increases the power of your green decks in your green-blue Merfolk deck. So I agree with that. Galta, Primal Hunger. I mean, what?
Yeah, it's a dumb card.
All right, did you get one of your... There's 3 colors that kill this. There are three really good cards at common that kill this, right? So Impale, Waterknot, and the white pacifism. What is it called?
Luminous Bonds?
Luminous Bonds, right? So there are commons that kill it. And this card could not exist if those cards did not exist.
This is true. No, did you not kill it? All right, you're dead.
All right, you're dead.
You're a million, yeah.
The next rare, J-Light Ranger, what?
Yeah, that one's... It's just value. So much value.
The next common is it's Path to Discovery, another broken one.
That one's... yeah. Very good.
Then we have Polyraptor, which we all know what that combo can do with Forerunner. Swift Warden, 3/3 flash for 3 plus upside. Tender Shoot Dryad, what the F? Thrashing Brontodon, I don't know why this card exists. Thunderherd Migration, lets you play 3 colors super easily, as well as like you just want this in a lot of your Dino decks. Wayward Swordtooth, or is it Swordtooth? I don't remember. That card's great. Like you hit Ascend so easily, and then World Shaper is the one that I think a lot of people play that I don't like. But the uncommons and rares in green, I think that we had a rare that I didn't like, and an uncommon I didn't like, and that's it.
Yeah, it's pretty. It definitely has just like a density of good
cards, not amazing cards.
Just very solid,
very good cards.
But like Ghalta and Tender Shoot Dryad are amazing. Those are both like insane. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is that this color is very good in draft and sealed. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's not very great in draft and sealed. I think that it might be great in sealed just because of how good the rares are, right? Like Ghalta and Tender Shoot Dryad are so good that it really makes up for like some of the other stuff you can get.
Mm-hmm.
But like, sure, while it has no playable combat tricks in this set and some good ones in the last set, it has good 2-drops. It has great rares. It has great uncommons. And then, while Hunt the Weak is the worst common removal spell, it has Hunt the Weak.
Yes, it does have Hunt the Weak.
Why don't you talk about that?
Like, Hunt the Weak, that shows you how good the commons just are. Is that, like, in many sets, Hunt the Weak is premium. And we have such an embarrassment of riches that Hunt the Weak is, like, okay. Yeah, it's fine. But
it might be better than Mutiny, but...
Yeah, it is. But like, you can get better removal spells in your other colors, which means, like, you can get Hunt the Weeks really late just because there's so many good options.
And then let's talk about Knight of the Stampede really quick. Because we kind of skipped that in the common segment, but what?
Yeah. So because there's so many 2/2s and 3/3s, Knight of the Stampede does a really good job at like fending off all the.
Oh, it holds the ground.
Yeah, and then that's what you need your 4-drop to do when you're trying to play 6-drops. Yeah. So
have you double spelled with the Colossal Dreadmaw yet? Where you have a Knight of the Stampede and you play Colossal Dreadmaw plus another card in the same turn. That feels broken.
Mm-hmm. I mean, reducing the cost by 2 is that's very significant.
Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about color pairs really quick. So we like red green. We've already talked about that. I think that's probably in our top 3 or 4 color combinations in this format in draft.
It's great. Like the synergies in red green are really, really impressive.
Well, the amount that just Forerunner alone with some of the green dinos creates, and like it's so good. And Needletooth Raptor, the number of times where I've just auto conceded to a Needletooth Raptor plus the week, it's like, hey, well, I actually can't beat this. Like,
and the uncommon is insane. Obviously, Raging Regisaur is one of the better uncommons. Like, it's unbelievable.
I have seen. I think LSV did a video where he first picked a Raging Regisaur. Because it's like...
That's so stupid, yeah.
So, I'm going to attack with my Raging Regisaur, okay? I'm going to deal 1 damage to my freaking Needletooth Raptor, kill your blocker, and then GG. Like, what are you going to do?
And, like, the common version is like, okay, I'll deal 1 damage to like Frilled Death Spitter. You take 2, and like like there's so many great combinations with it.
Think about it this way. Like, I think that in this format, if one of the green cards, or there's actually multiple, Grazing Whiptail moved up a ton from Ixalan. What's the Raging Raptors? Oh my god!
Oh yeah, no, that card's insane in this set. Yeah,
it's like, so red green got way better. The fact that like I will literally play every single Shake the Foundations I open in red green tells you a lot about that. So we love red green, red, blue, or sorry, we're on green again. I just love red, blue.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about it.
You do like it a lot.
Green, white is great. There are a few cards that moved up from Ixalan on this too. I still think Imperial Lancer is terrible, so please, please, please don't try and play that. I've always hated Pterodon Knight, but I know people love it. What is your opinion on that?
I've liked it. So it isn't great in this set. So the chicken is just such a powerhouse. So Suncrested Pterodon is a lot about what flying in the format is defined by Suncrested Pterodon, and that does not line up very well against that card. So.
Yeah, so that's a card that for me I've never loved. Conjoli's Collar moved up a little bit for me, but with that said, Territorial Hammerskull has moved down because I don't think that the green-white decks are about Territorial Hammerskull.
No, they're definitely trying to go late game and play big dinosaurs that.
Right, I want to play like BS cards, like maybe an ancient. I would be okay maybe even playing an Ancient Bronzodon.
Sure.
My green-white decks.
Yeah, like Bellowing Aegisaur is like a slam dunk great card.
Yeah. So green-white, very playable. I don't typically love green-white in draft formats. It has good removal. It has big dumb bodies that are good against the good removal in the set. So green-white gets a little bit better. Green-black, I tried this deck once. I had heard from other people it was good. I think this deck is terrible.
So it doesn't really have a theme. It's mostly, if those are the two open colors, then you can play your green-black.
I think it's still bad. I think that there's enough synergy to make this deck bad. Well, there's not as much as the last set where it was completely unplayable because there was no synergy. Yeah. I think there's still enough synergy where green-black kind of misses.
Yep. You're definitely giving up power level. I mean, I think that you can draft green-black if those colors are way more open, obviously, but I just think not great.
If I'm trying to 3-0,
yeah,
putting Jumbo Creeper into my graveyard off of an Explorer seems a little bit.
That's not just 3-0.
I know the format's slow, but it's not slow enough that I'm paying 5 mana to get a 3/3 back. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then let's.
Then it's Merfolk.
It's Merfolk. Yeah. Here's the thing. Merfolk rares are broken.
Yeah.
Merfolk other cards are not good.
Merfolk Lord also very, very good.
Sure. All I'm saying is, if you open a Kumena, Merfolk's probably really good. You should force it. But if you don't open a Kumena, it's probably not as good.
No.
This is the deck that moved down the most. I almost entirely wanted to be Merfolk or Vampires in the last set.
So, in the last set, Merfolk was so uninteractive broken. It was crazy. The best Merfolk decks, you felt like you could not compete remotely. Right. And it's just not like that anymore. You just need so much more.
You just look at kind of the green commons, right? They kind of fit dinosaurs better in this set than they fit Merfolk. And but the rares, man, those Merfolk rares are so good.
Yeah, they're insane. Yeah.
If you open Merfolk rares,
Deeper Elite is great.
Yeah. Cool. If you open Merfolk rares, go for it. But if you open a Jungleborn Pioneer, that doesn't mean you should go into Merfolk.
Yeah.
Give that to the person that opened the good Merfolk rare. Now, don't get me wrong, Legion Lieutenant and Merfolk Mistbinder are easily two of the best uncommons in the set, right? And Merfolk Mistbinder, Kumena, and then you talked about the Climb one?
Hedonus Climb.
Yeah, those rares are very, very good, as well as Deepwater Elite. And then I think there's a blue... What is the card? Isn't there a blue Merfolk card that's really good?
There's trying to think. There's the one that whenever Merfolk deals combat damage, you draw a card. What
is that one?
Seafloor Oracle.
Okay, that might be the one I'm thinking of. Oh yeah, because I lost to that with I was playing dinosaurs. They had River Darter and Mistcloak Herald.
And you're playing dinosaurs.
Yeah. So that was really good.
Yep.
So there are really good blue Merfolk rares and green Merfolk rares. So green blue as a color combination gets better with the rares, which in my opinion has made Merfolk better in sealed than it has in draft.
Yeah, you're not going to be as dedicated in sealed, but you can definitely, if you open up those cards, your deck can be very, very good.
Well, I think that it rewards some of the commons, right? So like Storm Sculptor is a little bit better in this set than it was in the past.
I think it's much better.
Reaver is a little bit better than it was in the past. And then in this set, right, like you have Glinlow Stalker at common, Jungleborn Pioneer at common, and I think Jade Bear is a little bit better in sealed than it is in draft because the draft format's, the sealed format's a little bit slow, right? So like you can play something like a Glint Grove Stalker, Jade Bear that plus another 2-drop, even if it's something like dumb, like a whatever. But I think that the Merfolk deck are, like, I've played Merfolk and sealed and been happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my opinion on the sealed plus the overall color combinations. Where do you think green stands in this format? We kind of made a stand where we said we thought white was number 1 and everything else was playable slightly below it.
So I thought we said that black was going to be the best just because of the quality of the rares and uncommons, right?
The rare and uncommons.
Yeah, and then each of the other colors kind of had like their niche, right? Like, so white is the deepest, so I think you'll play white a lot.
I don't know that I agree with that anymore. I think that you're going to play white the most.
I think that's correct.
I think that you're going to play black the second most.
Yep.
But blue's really close to black too.
Yeah.
As far as
I think green and red are going to be less played. But red the least, and then green above that, I think.
But I think that all of the colors are super playable, and I think that green stands in a very fine position. Yeah. So green black's not playable. Yeah. Good job. Like, sweet. You have one color combination. I can't talk. But like you don't love. But I didn't want to play my voracious vampires anyway. It doesn't matter if it's not playable in green black, right? Like, whatever. I know that doesn't affect green, but like, sure. I was never gonna play my aggressive urge. Doesn't affect me. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on where green stands?
I definitely think that green is solid, while not insane. I think you don't have to. So sometimes if you open a Tindershoot Dryad, that's like one of your best green cards.
That doesn't even matter though, because you
I know,
play that in your blue
like,
deck.
Exactly, that's what I was saying. Yeah, you don't have to play green for that one. Whereas like Tetsamok, you kind of have to like play black.
Well,
like it's
even
comparable.
Golta, you have to play green to play Golta.
Yep.
You can't just splash a green creature. Well, maybe the blue decks can, but like most decks, I don't think you'd play that in those blue decks though.
It wouldn't be as good, but
you'd probably still play it, but it wouldn't be great.
Yeah.
You'd play it because like the boards get super stalled, but
correct.
Let's wrap this up. Pack one, pick one. Your pack is really bad, and you have a Hunt the Week or a Night of the Stampede. What do you take?
Okay, Hunt the Week or Night of the Stampede. So I'm very unhappy. Yeah, that's not great. I'd probably take the Hunt the Week.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think it's closer than I would have ever expected, though.
Yeah, just because you don't need it.
Night of the Stampede is way better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, Night of the Stampede just does a lot, and it does something that's more unique in this set than what Hunt the Week does.
Well, we're going to talk about some green cards in our training grounds. So last week, we had a nice little try to transition into Spencer and not doing the training grounds. This week, I am not hosting the training grounds. Danny writes them, and Danny is hosting. So Danny, why don't you take over? What are we talking about?
Okay, so this week we're talking about how to sideboard. So this is just kind of like a general strategy thing that I wanted to go over. I thought it was like a very important skill, and I especially think that so we'll talk about draft and sealed, and then we'll focus on like how certain cards in the set kind of plays in, like use those as examples. But
Danny, I can't hear you at all, buddy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Cool, we're good. So the number one skill for me in terms of sideboarding is paying attention in game one is such a huge thing to try to focus on. When I first started playing, I would go into game two and not even remember what colors my opponent was. Have you ever had that happen to you?
I've literally never had that happen.
Yeah.
But that sounds like a very Denny thing to have happen.
Yeah. Go to sideboard. I'm like,
If I were to describe Danny in a comment on this podcast, that might be the comment that I would describe Danny with.
It has probably happened a surprisingly large number of times. Normally when the games aren't close, like if I know that I'm crushing them, I will not like focus as much. But I think paying attention can help your game 2 and 3 win percentage so much if you focus on that and try to like learn that skill.
Yeah, I think that, when I think about paying attention to game ones, the speed of my deck versus the speed of their deck has been something that I really need to consider. I wonder at times, if I'm sideboarding correctly because, do I need more 2-drops? Do I need more 4-drops? And what my seal pool consists of, and how. I always think of seal because it's my favorite format, but even my draft deck, right? Like what my deck consists of. Do I need to bring in a one? What is it? Is it a 1/5, the 4-mana white card?
The Looming Altasaur, the 4-mana 1/7.
1/7. Oh, 1/7, way better.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's huge.
Like, is that something that I need to bring in? And that's something that the speed of your deck versus your opponent deck is really important. Yep. And paying attention to game one is really going to help you with that. The other thing that I think about when paying attention to game ones, and I think that we'll get this in other stuff, is just like, how does my removal match up against their creatures?
Correct.
And first of all, is my removal bad? And second of all, can I beat the creatures that they're playing, and do I need to change my deck to give me a better chance to do that?
Like Mutiny is a great example in this set, where it can range from really, really bad to pretty reasonable, depending on what the matchup is. Pretty great. Yeah, if they're playing a bunch of like 4/2s, like the Urzaka Frillback and stuff, like Mutiny is getting really good because that you're going to be able to trade really efficiently, either killing their 4/2 or using their 4/2 to kill something that's much bigger.
Yes.
And so just as you're playing game one, regardless of if you're winning or losing, just making sure to pay attention so that you can get that advantage from that for sure. And then how do you feel about, like, how do you take sideboard cards when you're drafting? Like, what are some of the indicators of when you need to be taking them and not, I guess?
So is this one I can talk about Crushing Canopy?
Yeah, crushing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great example.
So it depends on the format. So cards like Crushing Canopy, for example, I want one of them in every single green deck I draft. I'm not even talking about like we're in pack. Like if I am playing green and I don't have a Grazing Whiptail yet in this draft format, I am taking a Crushing Canopy. That's happening.
Yep.
I actually don't care what the other cards are. Like unless I have 3 Bombards already.
Yeah.
Or that's probably not true. 2 Bombards would probably do it. But like,
and that's just because green is so weak against flyers.
Right? Yeah. It's so bad. And not only that, but like the speed of the format has indicated to me that either I can main that Crushing Canopy, or no matter what, I want one in my sideboard. And that's been true about Plummet in the past, right? Like if you've played a format where you've played Clipped Wings, you've probably drafted a Clipped Wings saying like, if I play against Flyers, I need this card. And it just depends on what your deck looks like, right? When you think about discard spells, right? There are discard spells that you've been like, okay, I probably need this. Or Hornswoggle is a really bad example because I think the card's super playable. But I'll take a cancel that just to have in my sideboard.
Yeah, just like adjusting. It's like a failsafe, right? Exactly. If I'm taking a cancel over a fringe 23rd card, like when I play against that bomb rare that I can't possibly beat, I'm going to want to have that as an option to go to.
And I think that leagues have really hurt me in drafting.
Okay.
And here's the reason why. In a league, there's no reason to hate draft. You have literally no reason to do it. And while I hate drafting, there's also no reason for me to take a hate draft card over a third cancel in a league.
Yeah.
Which is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never play the third cancel, but there's also no reason for me to take this freaking green card because I'm never going to play that either.
Yeah. Yeah, the leagues definitely are a little different, and you have to... I mean, I think the convenience factor outweighs the differences for sure. But when you're sitting at a competitive REL draft, you do need to make sure that you're paying attention to that kind of thing because it is a little different for sure.
What about you? Like, where do you take sideboard cards appropriately?
Yeah, so one of like the main... So it depends on format for me a lot. So like Ixalan is a great example of a format that had very low playable count, right? And so your luxury of taking sideboard cards wasn't as much. Like there were a lot of bad cards in Ixalan compared to...
I don't agree with this, but keep going.
No? Okay, so just, I guess, like, in the abstract. So if a set has a lot of playables, then you can get away with drafting, like, red, deal 5 damage to a red creature, right? You can draft a Chandra's Defeat higher because you're not going to risk not having playables once you finish the draft, right? So if you're in pack 1, in red, you can take a Chandra's Defeat over a vanilla 3-drop.
Sure. So I think that one drafter at the table probably got screwed in regular Ixalan.
Correct.
But I don't know that changed in Rivals of Ixalan. I think there's probably still one screwed drafter.
That's probably true. But in Rivals, because you can slash like I don't train wreck. I feel like you don't train wreck as often.
There's not a white screw drafter in Rivals, right? That never happens.
Yeah,
there's probably not a green one, and there's probably not a red one. There's probably
black is probably
only black.
Yeah,
you probably are a black drafter that got screwed.
Yeah.
Okay. And you could get screwed in any color in regular Ixalan, so I guess that's more likely, but I think that it's still only one person.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, like, as a general idea, even if your draft just starts differently, right? Like, let's say that I lose my first 3 picks because that color gets cut off, then I'm not gonna be in the position to value sideboard cards as highly.
Okay, so let's say let's take Ixalan Limited, for example.
Okay.
And you have an opportunity
Crushing Canopy is a pretty good example, I think.
That's a bad example. You should take that card.
It's like a good, like pretty targeted hate card.
I think that's a bad example. I think you should just be playing Crushing Canopy.
Because it's just good.
The last 2 formats, it's been main deckable almost to now you should probably be main decking it. But a good example might be like makeshift munitions, right?
Okay.
So like in the last set, maybe that's true. Maybe like you could never take a makeshift munitions until pack 3 because what are you supposed to be doing? Whereas in this set, to your point, you might be able to take a cleansing ray earlier because I'm happy with the cleansing ray.
Yeah. If I'm in white, I can take a cleansing ray and pass on a Martyr of Dusk if I want to, or because I know that I'll be able to get enough 2-drops that if I think I need this cleansing ray, then I can take a risk and do that.
I can understand that.
Yeah, and then it also like just obviously how good it is, how powerful the hate card is.
I think that weirdly the number of bad rares in Ixalan really affected this, right? How many times were you forced a rare? Or not forced, but like last 3 picked. You like got a Sun's Avatar or like a Brat, the Grixis Pirate, or you got a weird uncommon like the Brontodon that's 7 mana, right? Like where it was like these cards that you'll never play.
Yep.
And in Rivals of Ixalan, white super deep, red super deep, So those last picks didn't happen, right? So in regular Ixalan, to Danny's point, it's like, well, I'm going to take this sideboard card over one of these unplayable cards. So you were taking sideboard cards, but you were taking them over cards you would never play.
Yeah, you wouldn't prioritize that sideboard card over a playable.
Exactly.
Very often.
Where like, I think this is why Crushing Canopy might be a bad example. But it's like, where would you take your first Ryle in Ixalan? Whereas now you see a Ryle and you're like, your deck either wants it or it doesn't want it. And because of that, you get to take different stuff. Like, Makeshift Munitions is a perfect example. Makeshift Munitions versus Ryle was not even a consideration. Like, you wouldn't play either of those cards in Ixalan. And now it's like, you want a Ryle or you want to sideboard a Makeshift Munitions.
Yeah, and you get to choose
You do.
which one because you have more options, more playables, I guess.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk about hate cards?
Yeah, so there's a couple types of sideboarding. So the one that's like really obvious that I think is pretty intuitive to everyone is where we
already talked about Crushing Canopy.
Yeah, like Crushing Canopy is a great example. Destroy an enchantment, destroy a flyer, right? It's a hate card for something that your deck is weak against or something that your opponent's deck is trying to do. There's like a lot of them. Like you talked about Cleansing Ray gets rid of a tribe.
Yeah, Cleansing Ray is really a kind of a key card in this format because if I don't have we kind of talked a few weeks ago about how you don't like some of the stay and play removal spells as much as I do, specifically because of lords like Legion's Lieutenant, right? But if I'm playing a white deck, right, I might value something like Cleansing Ray higher because if I play against a Legion's Lieutenant in a draft league or a sealed league, like I want that card in my sideboard.
Yep. Yeah. No, Cleansing Ray is great, and even in like an 8-man pod, you would want a Cleansing Ray because you might play. Yeah.
Tons of the removals, enchantments. You really want to be able to kill specific types of vampires.
A lot of the bomb rares are enchantments, right?
Yeah. It's so funny because this week on so Marshall, by the way, for those who don't know, is like my hero. He's come to he got stuck in Salt Lake on a flight once. He was going to a GP to cover, and he was like, stuck in Salt Lake, what do I do? It's like I was working at Oasis Games at the time. I was like, come to Oasis, I'll pay for your draft. Like, just come do it. And I said, hey, listen to my podcast, tell me how to improve. And he's talked to me about podcasting ever since. Like, we've talked about vlogging. Like, he's just a cool guy. On their podcast this week, they talked about the opposite of what we said last week. You and I both said we liked Radiant Destiny last week.
Okay,
Yeah, and they said that it was, like, terrible. They didn't like it. But, I actually think in draft that card is quite good in vampires. And Cleansing Ray is a huge part of if they have either the vampire or the cleansing or the Radiant Destiny, like I need Cleansing Ray to try and win those kind of matchups.
Yeah.
And I think that there are other types of cards that really matter in sideboarded games, right? Captain's Hook is something that every deck is going to play, right? And like if your opponent has a Captain's Hook, you probably need a way to beat it.
Yeah. And so when you're looking at your sideboard and you like if you're playing against vampires and you look and see you have a Cleansing Ray, that is a huge improvement over what you take out.
Whatever. Doesn't even matter what the card is. It's just way better than whatever it is.
Exactly. You can switch out your removal, your creature. Like you're just going to be taking a big bump up just because like targeted hate cards are very powerful yet like limited in their use. But it's worth drafting them because they're going to be so efficient or mostly it's for efficiency. Like Cleansing Ray is really good because it's 2 mana, Doomblade / kill one of your bomb rares, right? Like it can do so many different things.
You have here written down relatively obvious switches, but if you miss them, it's just because you're lazy. What are you talking about here?
So in my experience, the hate cards, when you look at your sideboard, it should be pretty obvious which ones come in, right? There was the colored hate one, so like Chandra's defeat, Liliana's defeat.
Sure.
Like, if I was playing against red, I should probably bring in this Chandra's defeat. It's 1 mana, kill anything. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's good.
Slice and Twain is a really good example of this.
Where you just aren't paying attention.
I would never main deck this card.
Uh-huh.
But like, if my opponent goes Water Knot, Ixalan's Binding.
Yeah, Slice and Twain is now like a bomb in your deck.
Oh yeah,
right?
It's like, get my dude back, kill your thing, draw a card. Like,
yep. It's a bomb. Like, it's going to be as good as one of your best cards in your whole deck.
Right.
And if you just don't pay attention,
exactly.
You're not going to have this huge upgrade just because you're like lazy and don't see it.
It's so funny. People are like, Spencer, why is your sealed your favorite format? It's like, you get the biggest advantage in sealed compared to any other format in Magic.
I really think that's true. Like,
no, it is. It is one.
Yeah,
every person who argues with me about this, I'm like, I understand that you like hate getting unlucky and having one of those 1 in 30 bad seal decks.
Yeah, but you just have so many options.
Not as many. So Ixalan was a bad example.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe Ixalan sealed was terrible. Mm-hmm. I agree with you people. It was bad. It was so bad. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I gave up. I tried so many times. It was terrible. Rivals of Ixalan is not that.
It's quite good.
And most sealed formats are not that. And Slice and Twain is the perfect example of like why sealed is great.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding your sideboard, the number of times where my opponent presents their deck at a GP before I've even picked up my sideboard tells you how great sealed is.
It happens all the time. Like, it is very easy to not sideboard because your cards,
your best deck.
Yeah, exactly. And your cards in your sideboard are worse in a vacuum than the cards that are in your main deck, right? Yep. I think it's especially true with the other type of sideboarding that I want to talk about isn't just hate cards, but just like minor tweaks. I think that
the subtle improvements, right?
Yeah, just subtle improvements. So, I saw like a conversation on Twitter, and I think it was Craig Wesco. He talked about how he will note in the first couple games, or like game 1, game 2, he'll note like the power and toughness of his opponent's creatures. And an example is if he sees that they have a lot of Sailor of Means, he might sideboard in the 4/2s and sideboard out 2/3s.
Oh, I mean, not only that, but let's say that you're Craig Wesco, which means you're probably playing red white or green white.
Green white, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so you have a lot of options at the type of stuff that can battle at this spot, and it's so funny to me that the number of times where I played against somebody where at the end of our match they're like, yeah, like I had this card that's really good, but like you didn't play any of the cards that matter against it. So a really good example is like we talked a lot last set about dual shot, where like I've been really high on dual shot. Most people weren't there, but now it feels like everybody's on the dual shot train with me.
Mm-hmm. Because it kills so many 2-drops.
Yeah,
right?
And not only that, but like it lets Sailor of Means is a real card in this format, right? Mm-hmm. And the number of times that you need to kill that Sailor of Means, and you just need one more damage.
Yeah, you have a sea of 3/3s.
Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to get a 3/3 in this format, but it's so hard to get a 4. It is actually hard to get a 4-power creature in this format. Like that does not happen.
Yep.
And because of that, you want things that do this. And so, if I'm not playing dual shot, which you should be, I'm probably sideboarding that in, and it's every Sailor of Means deck because I need a way to break through those Sailor of Means. And that's an incremental improvement over even a mediocre 2/2. Like, I would rather have a dual shot against Sailor of Means than any 2/2 in my deck. Mm-hmm. Ever.
Yeah. I walked up to a match at a GP, and it was like in the later rounds, and I forget who it was, but they had 3 looming Altasaurs out. And like the 1/7, it's like, oh, they definitely sideboarded. Like, this is their sideboard plan. And they knew, like, okay, if, like, I just need to put a lot of toughness into play, and I will be able to win this game, right?
I think that they had the 7-drop dinosaurs.
I mean, I didn't. I think they were in white black, but
I don't know then. I don't.
Yeah, no, and I think you can do. I think those types of swaps are far underutilized.
We talked about it before, right? Like, I'm going to play cards that match up better. First of all, there are a few things I want to think about. The play or the draw.
Mm-hmm.
So the number of times that my opponents have not cared about this is shocking to me. Like, if I have a bunch of Sailor of Means and I'm on the play, your 2/1s that don't have menace or flying
do nothing. Yeah.
Do literally nothing.
Yep. Or your Raptor Companion. Get that Raptor Companion out of your deck.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I've actually fallen into this mistake myself, man. Like,
it's really easy just to not pay attention, right? Because you have 40 cards in your deck. There's a timer on the round, so there's some amount of pressure to be quick, and it's a lot of decisions. But it's one of those where if you do it often enough, a lot of these things can become second nature, and you'll get into the habit of just observing that. And then when you're flipping through your deck as sideboarding, you'll notice, oh, this 2/3 is bad. I need to take this 2/3 out. What do I have? And you'll be able to make those swaps just because you'll have a feel for how the game's played out as you pay more attention to the pre-boarded games.
Yeah, I can't express enough how often those subtle improvements swing those games for you. Like, they really matter.
I did want to give a word of caution that you can go overboard on sideboarding for sure. Especially
you can't play no 2-drops instead of your 1/7.
Exactly. Just because they're a control deck doesn't mean you can take out every single 2-drop, right? That's not going to be an effective way to win the game. And I also draft a lot of janky decks, and so janky decks have a game. They have a game plan, right? And so you can't dilute your game plan by over sideboarding. That's more of a constructed.
It comes up more. Problem.
It's a Danny problem. Man, I can't take out this creature because, I have 5 modules in my deck, so I need to keep all of them in. So, but, and over sideboarding, enchantment hate or artifact hate can be very dangerous also. If you bring in 3 crushing canopies and they don't play any flyers or enchantments that turn, that game.
That's a lot of crushing canopies.
Yeah.
While I will defend the first main deck crushing canopy 100% of the time, I don't even know that I would defend the second one ever.
Yeah, that's generally my rule. So I am very happy to bring in one, and I'm always very cautious about bringing the second situation.
Now, this is different for something like Cleansing Ray, right? Like, if your opponent is vampires or you've seen 4 enchantment removal spells, you probably would bring in... Well, in that case, you bring in both Crushing Canopy and Cleansing Ray for the enchantment thing. But, it really does depend.
Yep.
It does. And I think that understanding what is my deck trying to do is really important. Because in Constructed, people think about this a lot, right? They think about their curve. They think about what they want to do on each turn. And I don't think that people think about this enough Limited. What is my deck trying to do? What is my game plan? Is really important. I know that you think that, it's limited. I'm going to do whatever my deck tells me to do. But you have so much control over that. Mm-hmm. There are so many seal pools where you have 2 decks that can day 2 you a GP.
Yep.
And you need to pick the one that fits the game plan that fits best in the format. You need to pick the one that fits what you like to do the best in the sealed format. And in draft, the lane that you're taking... The reason that Danny and I like Blue-Red is not because Blue-Red's the best deck. Let me be very clear. The Sailor of Means deck is probably the best deck in this format. But do you know what deck's really freaking good against that deck? The Blue-Red aggro deck. Mm-hmm. That's why Danny and I like it.
Mm-hmm. It beats up.
It beats up on the best deck. You're taking cards that are good against you anyway, right? So first of all, Mutiny's great against the Blue-Red deck, and you're already taking a bunch of them. So if you're in a paper draft, trust me, this is This is the other problem that I have with leagues, by the way. Like, the number of people are like, Mutiny's bad. And it's like, well, you're playing leagues. Like, you're like, the reason you don't like it in blue red is because other decks are playing it against you. But if you were playing on a paper draft, they wouldn't have mutinies because you're taking them all.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is anyway.
Yeah.
But like, this is important. Like, your deck has a game plan. Your deck does something. My blue red deck is trying to not let you block, stop you from attacking me for more damage, and do this thing that Danny and I are enjoying doing.
And then if you're in blue red and you start bringing in cancel or spell pierce because you saw that.
So first of all, I've never brought in a cancel playing blue red.
Yeah, no, it's not like that's not your game plan.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't fit your game plan.
Yeah.
However, I've never not brought in a crushing canopy playing green white or green red.
Yeah, there's certain cards that match up, like will line up with your game plan. Like in blue red, you're much more likely to sideboard in a hijack than you are sideboard in a cancel, right? Your opponent has a Tetsamok, and you should not be like, oh, I have to counter Tetsamok. Your game plan should probably be, hey, I need to kill them before they cast Tetsamok.
And then if I don't, I get to hijack their Tetsamok and attack them.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's just it comes with like understanding what your deck is trying to do.
Yeah. Sure. So your sixth point is sideboarding and sealed, and I feel like
you mentioned it. So one, like the main point that I wanted to talk about is the one that you mentioned about like switching decks in sealed. How often do you think that actually comes up where it's correct to just audible decks?
I think that as I've gotten better at sealed, so I, like every Magic player, started out saying sealed was the worst format of Magic. I was like, this is the worst format. It's all about luck, blah, 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 blah. Like, just the total BS that comes with being a new Magic player and hating sealed. The reason sealed is the best Magic format is because you have 100% of the information. And I was playing a match against Paul Rietzel at a GP. And we both literally grabbed our sideboards, shoved them into our decks, took out cards. Here's the thing. This is a real thing that happened. I switched cards. He still did it and didn't switch any cards. He still played the same deck. You very often have two sealed decks. It is. I think it's actually rare you don't.
Sometimes it'll be like blue-black and white-black. That's pretty common.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, completely agree with that. But what happens is you need to pick your spot in this format. Where do I want to be? Do I want to be aggressive? Do I want to be controlling? Do I want to put splash colors? Do I want better mana? There are a lot of things that you need to consider for your Game 1 deck. But that doesn't make it your Game 2 deck. That doesn't make it your Game 3 deck. That doesn't make it on your on the play deck. That doesn't make it on the draw deck. There are times where it is correct to just change. I have played so the last season I won a PPTQ. I played a very controlling deck game 1 in every match I played. And then every game on the play, I sideboarded into red-black. I had double Wanted Scoundrels. I was like, listen, in game 1s, I want to be the control plan. If I win the die roll, that's great. I'm still on the control plan. But if I'm ever on the play in games 2 or 3, I'm sideboarding in these Wanted Scoundrels, red-black, aggressive deck. And this is an Ixalan, right? Like, I want to be aggressive. And I did not lose a match in this PPTQ.
Yeah.
And I think that people don't think about this stuff. And the reason that they hate sealed is because they don't understand sideboarding in sealed.
Yeah. It takes a lot of effort to do that, right? So I
actually don't think this is true.
Well, even just
I think that it just takes all of your time in deck building. Like,
yeah.
Pick your deck you're going to play in your main deck during deck building. That's fine, but don't stop. You have a lot of time left. Figure out like what your other configurations are.
You
And
have
if there's a
in-between
deck that you can
rounds.
sideboard into in certain situations, sleeve up that deck.
Yeah, you have to bring more than 45 sleeves or however many you normally bring, right? And so because you won't have time, like that's a real thing though. Like you won't have time to switch colors in the middle of a match. You'll have to have the cards sleeved to be able to switch them. Like there's a physical labor that goes into it. For sure.
You might be my new favorite Silver Pro. Here's the reason in Utah. I hate it when people say they won't travel for sealed. It's like, that is so stupid. And I know that basically Owen Turtwald is the only other person that agrees with me and like is vocal about it. But you gain such an advantage.
Yeah.
Like, such a huge advantage. Sure, 1 in 7, probably less than that. Probably more than I mean. Probably like 1 in 12. I don't know what the numbers are. It would be interesting if Frank Carson did an article that like was like, this is
how likely is it that you get an unplayable seal pool? I mean, it's impossible to do that article, but it would be interesting.
It would be so interesting because, like, first of all, you have to take into consideration the number of people that are going to botch their seal pools.
So many people only like limited, but they don't play much Magic, right? And they probably aren't as experienced in playing in like at a Grand Prix or at a PPTQ, right?
There's so many advantages at the Sealed Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Like, so many. Anyway, I should shut up because I could literally talk about this for like 2 hours. So I'd like to wrap up. There's a few tips that I think that are really important. Where are you picking your sideboard cards and why are you picking them? What is your deck trying to do? When you're building your steel pool, where does your deck line up? What do you want your game 1s to look like? Where do you want your game 2s to look like? Where do you want to be on the play? Where do you want to be on the draw? Where do you want to be on the format? Hate cards. You know, is there cards that really matter in the format? Whether that's enchantments, whether that's certain types of creatures, whether that's colors, whether that's tribes. What is going on where you want to think about these cards? And then, you know, understanding what is happening in your game 1 and draft specifically. And I think that's true in Seal too. We kind of talked about like the play or the draw, where you want to be in the format. It all adds up to one big thing that you can try and improve on. You can check out our sponsors at Fusion Gaming and oh my gosh, I'm like totally the Mana Base. Thank you, as well as playgamebeard.com. You can support the podcast directly by going to patreon.com/LTOMTG. You can find me at Spencer13H. You can find Danny at DJ Cathro. You can find Mason at Mason E. Clark.
Yeah.
I think that's right. You can subscribe to the podcast by clicking the link that's probably in the show notes if you want just this podcast. I just want to give a shout out. We've gotten so many people over the last couple of months that said that Danny and I have really hit our stride, that we are their favorite limited podcast. And that if you had asked me before we hit 100 episodes, if any human ever said that to us, I would have said no. And I do understand that like PPT grinders really care about sealed, and like so much of that is how much we focus on sealed. And when Danny and I we had a meeting a long time ago at my house where we literally wrote on my windows with a dry erase marker the type of player we wanted to focus on, like who we wanted to help. And there were 3 of them. It was your FNM player that drafts every week, your GP grinder, and then your PPD grinder, because we think those are different people. And the PPD grinder is the one that always is messaging me saying, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. Thank you so much. And I just want to say that this is not on accident. Like, I understand that, like, if you are just a moto drafter that's going to draft 32 times in a format, this podcast is probably not as helpful or as entertaining for you as listening to LSV and Marshall. And that's okay. We are okay with that. But if you are trying to win a PPTQ, I hope that we can improve and be as helpful as possible to you, because that's our goal. I have won, I think, as many sealed PPTQs now as I have constructed PPTQs.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because it's so easy to get an advantage, and I hope that we're always doing what we can to give you that advantage. Hashtag what's the pick is our Twitter outreach program. If you tweet it, Mason will read it. We have no new ones this week. But if you tweet something within your first 3 picks, give us a screenshot. This is kind of our Pack 1 Pick 1 segment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're familiar with the crack of packs on LR or loading ready running,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just tweet us a picture of your pack, and we will read it on the podcast and give our opinion. So thank you, everybody, so much for listening. It means the world to us. Danny, did you learn anything this week?
I did. I think I liked talking about about sideboarding in general, because for me, it's something that I'm trying to improve on. I think that's like a big thing that we focus on in this podcast, is just trying to get better and trying to take like an active role in improving and trying to find things to get better at. So I learned a lot from this one for sure.
So sideboarding is obviously really fun for me because of how much I love sealed.
Mm-hmm. And it's huge in sealed.
Yeah,
like,
and
gigantic.
One of the things that I learned this week is kind of just how often I think about this compared to what I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, yeah, I just do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, when people ask me, Spencer, why do you love sealed so much? I think sideboarding is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
I think understanding how many sealed decks that I have available to me, plus the type of cards, is really important.
Yeah. Comparing it to a draft, once you're done drafting, you honestly have a couple decisions. Like, there's like 2 or 3 cards in a lot of drafts that you actually have real decisions to make about. Whereas in sealed, it's 100, like 60 cards or something.
It's so many cards.
Yeah, you could reasonably bring in or out your mana base, adjusting it depending on, like, there's so many more decision points that if you want to put in a lot of effort at improving, like, sealed sideboarding is like an almost endless pit of being able to improve. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody so much for listening, and we'll see you guys all next week with another episode of Limited Time Only.